Hi, it's Steve Hartgood, and this is We Connected Cafe, which I have to tell you has been a blast. I'm so excited for the whole month of these events. Will says, do I sleep? I don't think any of us are sleeping during Connected Educator Month. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Which is when somebody decides that this needs to be turned into a year-long program. Do we all just fall over in fatigue? Connected Educator decade. Oh, don't even say it because somebody will pick up on that and get a contract for it. It's actually made me think that a better community calendar would be a really good thing, but if we had it, would it just be overwhelming? I don't know. We'll talk about it. Thanks everybody for coming. There's supposed to be a badge of the day, but it's not. I couldn't find it, and I emailed and nobody knows so far. So I don't think it's a huge loss. I'm going to get in trouble saying that, right? Because these are all recorded, and I'm going to get in trouble. But there's a badge of the day, and I'll give you the code at the end. Yeah, no. Hey, okay, there is that connector. So much fun. Mark Sylvester's here. Mark, glad to have you back, and lots of fun with that connector. There are the book clubs. There's this event, and I feel like tonight there were just about a ton of things. So we get Will and Lee and Karl to ourselves, which is kind of a treat. And hopefully Will and Karl and Lee, you'll find this relaxing and enjoyable, and it won't feel like your normal thing. Okay, this is our ever at the ready map. Click on the star to the left and click on the map, put where you are in the chat. And I'm in Asheville, North Carolina, where it's a little cold. Not a lot, just a little. Yeah, if you could zoom in on this map and have it give you Google Earth results, wouldn't that be spooky? Oh, wait. Hey, we've got somebody outside of North America. Hooray. I didn't see it in the chat. Maybe it's come up and I missed it. Okie doke. Keep it coming. We'll keep going here. Okay, so the goal of these connected cafes is to kind of get up close and personal with famous bloggery hero types. And all three of you qualify in really fun and interesting ways. So the first thing we do is to have you each of you give a 3-minute background. Just 3 minutes, just a quick background, so if somebody doesn't know you, they'll have a better sense of who you are. And let's start with you, Lee.
Okay, well, hi everybody. I'm Lee Kolbert. I'm in sunny South Florida. Sorry to hear about everybody's weather in the 30s and 20s, but right now we're doing about 82, so that's cold for us here. And what can I tell you about myself? Not really much interesting, but I'll go ahead. I've been an educator for, about 29 years, and 22 of those in the classroom, mostly elementary. And I've been in the classroom, out of the classroom, in district administration. And really my passion is working with teachers, and I enjoyed working with students very much, but at this point in my life, which is, old, and I think now I've moved on to working with teachers and enabling them to feel empowered with what they have. I blog, I do workshops, I train teachers, and I really enjoy connecting with people who are smarter than I am, which basically is about everybody, so I'm in good shape.
Yeah, I lost my mouse there for a second. Sorry for the pause. Karl, can you do the same? to make sure your microphone is on. Click that talk button at the top.
Let me try that again. How about now?
Yes, great.
Okay. All right. It's Karl Fisch coming from Highlands Ranch, Colorado. I've been an educator for about 25 years. I've taught students mathematics. I'm also the technology coordinator for my high school, and I occasionally blog. I'm on the Twitters. Mainly I just heckle folks like Lee and Will and Steve, and really interested in figuring out how to do this education thing the best way we can for our kids, and how that might be changing a little bit given the affordances of the internet and the technology that we have.
Okay, I don't think I've ever been heckled by you. Lee or Will, has Karl ever heckled you?
Karl heckles me all the time.
What am I, just some lucky guy? I'm probably not prominent enough to have gotten heckled yet. That's it.
You're heckle-worthy.
I don't need to be heckle-worthy. That's so funny. Okay, so anyway, before we switch off of Lee and Karl, Lee, what's one thing people might know you from that others might not know? Like TV?
What people might know me from, but others might not know. I'm not sure what you're asking.
If somebody doesn't know about you, where would a lot of other people have heard about you from?
I used to do a local cable show. We abandoned that a couple of years ago when there was some reorganization in our district. But I'm not sure if that's what you're asking, but I did do that for a little while. Where else people would know me from? Oh, I don't know. The frozen food section in the grocery store is a pretty good place that they might find me.
I meant the TV show. I just wanted you to be able to tell the story. And Karl, there's something about you that you didn't mention where that sort of prominent in your background in terms of the internet.
Well, I suppose I did a PowerPoint presentation a few years ago that a couple people have seen. I presented with Will Richardson and at the same place as Lee Kolbert, so I guess that counts. I've been made fun of mercilessly.
Tell them the name of the PowerPoint presentation, would you?
The name of the I don't know. Does anybody know? Do you know what it's called? It's called Did You Know Shift Happens, and a few other things depending on who you talk to. I also get made fun of a lot for a comment somebody made once about the fish flip. So yeah.
Okay. You both were too modest to let me just lead you gently there. Well, tell us about yourself.
Well, I think probably the one thing that I'm trying to deal with right now is surviving two teenagers. So my whole world kind of goes through that lens at this moment. Trying to figure out how to get through the next 3 years, 8 months, 7 days, and I don't know what it is. But I've been a blogger for a long time, former educator, and now I'm going around trying to confuse people and just trying to push a different conversation around what teaching and learning looks like, because we can do all the stuff that we're doing right now. So that's basically it. And Karl has been heckling me for a long, long time, and deservedly so, by the way.
Okay, I think we've just found our theme for the night. It's got to be teenagers, right? Okay, so Will with 2 teenagers, Karl with a 13-year-old. We're on our 4th teenager, right, at 15. Lee with 2, having been through teenagehood twice. There's something I think happens as parents with teenagers that is worth exploring, especially in the context of school. So we'll come back to that. Okay, thanks to each of you. We're going to quickly ask the audience the most interesting things you learned today. So you can put this in you can use the text tool and write it on the whiteboard. You can put it in the chat. Oh, did I say I was a teenager twice? Sorry, I didn't mean that. Maybe my parents felt like I was a teenager twice. What did you learn today? It doesn't have to be in Connected Educator Month. Could be anywhere. Could have been in the last 5 minutes. What was something interesting that you learned today? That is great. Okay, if that's a heckle, Karl, then I've seen lots of it, but I don't think that's really qualifies as a heckle.
He's just trying to earn points with me. It's not going to work, Karl.
That is funny. The pictures of Karl and Will on the Connected Educator Month actually look quite similar. It almost looks like two pictures of one person. If you haven't looked at those yet, look at connectededucator.org and click on the cafe link.
I was thinking that too, Steve. I thought it looked kind of like a before and after picture.
Don't go any further. Okay, only 5% of us think Congress is worth even thinking about anymore. You learned your blog is down. How fun it is to see people in their homes. I know that I need to be funnier like this panel. It really doesn't matter how clear the instructions are for an assignment. A significant number. I'm going to expand this comment because I can't read it. If my expand tool would work. Significant number do not read assignment instructions. Okay, running large-scale virtual conferences, I can tell you I agree with that completely. Learn how to upload video and audio on a new website. Learn the teaching about takes as much patience as kinders today. So Will, Lee, and Karl, do you see a comment there you want to ask about?
Yes, I'm wondering about the one that says that kids don't self-organize in online spaces. I don't know who wrote that, but I'm just wondering what prompted that.
Okay, if that was you, feel free to just take the microphone. I'm going to give everybody microphone permissions, and all you do is click on the top button, or you're welcome to write it in the chat. Oh, Mark says he likes the Twitter suggestion. Okay, Will, in the absence of a response on that, what do you think it means?
I was afraid of that.
That was actually, sorry, that was just going through the whole audio setup. It was a little snark comment for the day. Trying something new, just using Google as like my free LMS, and we're learning about different ways to discuss literature in groups, and so obviously you have to be in groups. And had a few emails and just general, for the last few weeks, or last week, well, my group hasn't gotten together, my group can't figure this out. And then I would be, did you post a message on Google+? Did you post it on Google Sites? Did you post in Google Groups? And it was just even that kind of self-advocacy. I mean, they have never been modeled. It's brand new to them. And it is, I will build more support into that. But the idea that they were transitioning into different mindsets to a hybrid classroom and needed to think about ways that they had to take empowerment of their own learning. Which I think if they do learn that, I'd rather have them learn that than different methods to do literature discussions anyways. But in the end, they were able to get on Google Hangouts and they did a video chat, and we were able to do a hangout on air and share it to the classroom. So in the end, it worked. It just took a lot of prodding. I just need, I think, a bigger cattle prod, and I'm off.
So I think it's interesting because, and I see this in my kids, not all the time certainly, but every now and then, they absolutely self-organize around the things that they're really interested in learning. I tell the story about Tucker and Minecraft all the time, but it's about cooking, it's about all sorts of things that they want to learn more about, reaching out to their friends, people in their Instagram and Twitter networks. So, I mean, I think that maybe part of it, and I know you're just kidding about the cattle prod, but if you think about that, maybe there's a piece of that speaks to letting kids self-organize around the things that they really want to be self-organized around. Can we force kids to self-organize in spaces even if we give them the time and the tools and whatever else? It's just a question.
I think it really dovetails well with our teenager theme. And my guess is, Greg, that we're going to come back to it. So thanks for that. I think that'll be fun to talk about. Okay, and I promise that we will come back to it. So the next stage of our show is to allow each of our guests to tell about one thing they're really deeply passionate about or they're thinking deeply about right now. So this is 3 to 5 minutes. Again, we'll start with you, Lee. What's something that's really on your mind that you either is stumping you or that you really care about, where sharing it with an audience would be a way of starting a conversation?
Well, I'm really interested in helping people to see creative ways out of problems. And I think that so often we get pigeonholed into one particular solution and we see that it's not possible, or we're being told it's not possible, and so we tend to make ourselves victims. And certainly there are very good reasons for that, but I also think that sometimes there's other ways out. For example, with teachers, teachers are so overwhelmed, there's so much to do. At least, I can speak from my school district. We just throw so much at teachers all the time, and there's not enough time for them to get done, and certainly not within the hours that they're paid for, but even in hours in the day. There's just not enough hours. And we want teachers to have more professional development. We want teachers to self-learn. We want them to go out, and they don't really know how to do that. We don't really give them the tools to do all these extra things. So in my department, I'm the manager of the Department of Educational Technology. We do more of the innovative things in the district. I'm proud to say that. We do help teach the teachers to do innovative things with technology to integrate into the curriculum. And frequently what we hear is that they don't have time to do, all they have time to do is the drill and kill and prepare for tests. So it's really important to me to help teachers see how they can do these things that they really want to do, and they can make it work. So if they can't afford to go to conferences, for example, we bring conferences to them. We have a huge conference every year. I know Will is aware because we're talking to Will about it right now, and Karl is aware. He's come to our conference a couple times and presented. So we bring a top-notch conference to our teachers every year, and although we have over 12,000 teachers in our district, we get about 2,500 teachers there at our conference, and we don't charge anybody to come. So although it would make me nervous if 12,000 teachers wanted to come because we couldn't house them all, it makes me sad that not more than that really are able to come for whatever reason. And frequently it's because they have too much to do back at their classrooms, or sometimes the principals won't let them come. But as far as coming to conferences or going out and getting their own PD, getting connected to other people, I really like the idea of teachers getting connected to other people, even if it's just outside their own grade levels, outside their classroom, going through Edmodo or going through Discovery Educator Network or just going on Twitter. A lot of people are still afraid of being online and using Twitter. A lot of people still think Twitter is about what you had for breakfast, and I get that. I understand. But I'm passionate about getting people connected so that they can find some pleasure and joy in teaching again.
Lee, I have a friend who uses the phrase restorying, which is kind of giving people a new frame or a new story. Is that a part of what you're talking about?
Can you repeat that? Because I'm having trouble hearing you, Steve. You're a little muffled. Say it again.
Hang on. If I'm sounding muffled, I better check and make sure my mic setting's right. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Okay, Lee, I'll try again. So I have a friend who talks about restorying, S-T-O-R-Y.
Oh,
Right? So
restorying.
telling a new story, creating a new frame for thinking about your life or your role. Is that a part of what you're talking about?
I think if I understand what you're talking about, I think it is. I think people need to step outside what they're used to and not allow other people to create the frame that they think they belong in. So if, you know, and it's easier said than done, I get that. But if you're so busy and you have so many mandates put on you, it's very easy for other people to tell you what you should look like and what you should be doing and what you should sound like. But if you can just break out of it in one small piece, and that may be just coming out of your comfort zone, just a small way, in just one small way at a time, something may emerge that may light your fire again. And it's very hard. You know, I think teachers right now are very discouraged, and they're feeling burnt out. And I'm sure that's been all through the ages, but I think it's especially so right now with Common Core and teacher evaluations, and in our district it's the whole Marzano thing, and teachers are just, they've had it, and it makes me really sad because they're losing that whole joy for teaching that they once had, and a lot of teachers are leaving the classroom. You know, I know they are. I'm one of them, you know, so I hate to say that, but I get it, you know.
So challenging teenager question number one. It seems to me like a lot of my role as a parent is helping my kids explore their own stories and to develop a story that allows them to go out into the world and be self-directing and to flourish. I don't know that I've thought about that till this moment, but a lot of my interactions with my kids are sort of like emotional intelligence kinds of things. Karl and Will, same experience or different?
You mean with my kids?
Well, I was actually going to turn the mic over to Karl and Will for a second to see if they, do you find yourselves doing the same thing with your teenage kids?
Yeah, I mean, and so I'm a total failure at that. You know, constantly trying to get them outside of the narrative of learning in school, and like I said before, occasionally they do that, but it's a really hard thing to do. I mean, all kids are different, all families are different, obviously. My kids happen to be very much into sports, and so between, you know, going to AAU tournaments and everything else, it's already hectic as it is. But certainly what we're trying to do is to find some way to connect them to the things they really care about. And one of the issues that we're both kind of struggling with, my wife and I are both kind of struggling with right now, is that I don't see a lot of that connection happening in the context of school. And you know, when I look back on my own schooling too, it didn't really happen for me there either. So yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I think it's about giving kids opportunities and experiences, giving our kids at least the experiences and the opportunities at least to see something different, find something new, and perhaps connect to that. But you know, given the realities of life and the choices that we've made around, you know, sports and everything else, it's a very difficult thing to do still. And I don't know about you, Karl.
Yeah, I struggle with that all the time. When Will was talking a couple times ago, when he's talking about his kids self-organizing around things, that's something that my wife and I are always maybe too much talking to our daughter about, and I think it's something she really struggles with because she is not connected through school, and nor is she particularly connected outside of school. And maybe it's perhaps because she's on the younger end of things at 13, and she'll hit her stride, but we really talk a lot about finding things you're passionate about and going in depth, and she really has internalized the whole school mode of I need to do this and get this done and please my teachers, and we certainly want her to please her teachers in the sense of we don't want her to be kind and work hard and all that kind of stuff. But it's frustrating, and part of me worries that because I am fairly well connected And because I obviously think this is really important, am I pushing it almost too much on her and not letting her just be a 13-year-old that could have existed before the internet and that she'll find it in time. And so we struggle a lot with how much to encourage / push her on stuff and how much to let her be who she wants to be. And it's tough, and it certainly isn't happening in school. Her school is fine, but it's not particularly connected, and it's frustrating. And I don't know how much of that frustration is my needs and how much of it is her needs.
Well, so wait a minute. I have an idea. Let's collect lots of data, and if we get lots of data, then we can build an algorithm that will help kids restore it, right? Because it's all about the data. If we have enough data, we can do anything, right? Deb says, unconditionally love your children. I mean, that's my concern, right, is that we're losing this sense of just how fascinatingly interesting and unique it is for an individual to go through a growth experience if we believe that we can measure and control that.
Steve, I see that there's a comment in the chat. Deb Boatwright said, she said, if it's a known fact that districts are asking too much, why don't they stop? And that's a really good question. And I think a lot of people have been scratching their heads for a long time. Everybody knows it's the wrong thing to do, right? All this testing, all this, all these mandates, everybody will agree it's crazy. And I sat in a meeting today with the assessment people from my district, with brilliant, well-meaning people who are just trying to make it work for all the teachers and all the people who are at the schools also trying to make it work. But everybody agrees it's just insanity. Why do they not stop? Because the pressure is on from the state, and the state has the pressure on from the federal government, and it all comes down to money, and you just can't, So at least not right now. But, Will has spoken quite a bit about, just putting your foot down and saying, I'm not going to do it. And I think if more people get in on that and say, I'm not going to do it, things will change. But if just one or two people do it, not enough people, it just won't rock the boat enough,
Okay, we are not done with this conversation. Next up will be Karl for the 5 minutes of deep thinking. But we're going to turn the time over right now to Tom DeBoer, who is going to tell us about what's happening tomorrow in Connected Educator Month. Tom, are you with us?
I am. I'm with you. Yeah, well, I guess you know what? Today was just a really, really full day. I want to start for a second, just talking for a second about tonight, because there are a couple things going on right now that will be continuing after this that, I'm hoping folks will get a chance to come out and support. NAESP and NASSP are holding the first of their special CEM CP chats, and this one is on a topic that's really important to all of us, I think, which is getting more principals connected and getting them more involved in the connected education movement. Eric Scheniger and Joe Mazza are leading that Twitter chat, among others, and it'd be great if as many folks as possible can at least stop in, even now if you're up to the multitasking, and lend your support to that effort. We'd really like them to have a good experience this year. This is the first year that they were involved last year, but they've really gone all in this year on Connected Educator Month, and we'd like to support them. And another group that's really gotten involved with Connected Educator Month for the first time this year is the American Federation of Teachers, and they have the first of their events happening tonight, also at 8 o'clock. I'm going to put a bit.ly link for that one in here, because obviously nobody here needs me to tell anybody how to do CP chat, but here, the hashtag for the CP chat, I'll just put that in first. That's the chat that's going on right now with the principals. And the Common Core discussion, they're having a series of Common Core discussions with some really pretty strong people leading them for the AFT sessions. They'll be every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 from now until November 20th, which is great because we really wanted to have some events and series and things this year that go beyond Connected Educator Month, because we really want Connected Educator Month this year to be more of a kickoff to things rather than just something that comes and goes and is, closes up shop at the end of the month and leaves everybody wondering, what's next. So any of y'all that can come in there and just lend some support, help these groups have a great first experience with CEM and Connected Education in general, that would really be appreciated. As far as what's happening tomorrow, tomorrow, is not crazy. I might say it was crazy, and I got a lot of grief because I didn't get the newsletter out until some of the events had already passed, and I'm going to be working on doing a better job with that going forward. But among other things, we've got 11:05 Media's virtual FETC tomorrow, as many of you know about. That's from 11 to 6. It's all online. Mark Krensky is keynoting and kicking it off. There's sessions on going one-to-one with mobile, intelligent dashboards, gaming at EDU, flipping assessments, which I think is an interesting take on flipping classrooms, technology and Common Core, and the last session is about evergreen mobile apps that work across grades and disciplines, and better yet, all fit on one screen, which I'm kind of eager to see which apps they chose for that. At 11, there's a event hosted by LearnBop on self-directed learning, which I know is a personal favorite topic of Will's. It's a discussion that's being led by Cindy Bryant, who's, for those who don't know her, is a winner of a Presidential Award for Teaching and used to be on the Board of Directors for the National Council of Teaching and Mathematics. Taking IT Global and the Global Education Center from 11 to 12:30 are holding an international event that's very relevant to tonight's topic. It's about adolescent mental health. And both teachers and students are invited to join that. It's probably hard at this point for folks to get their classes scheduled to come to participate in that, but we wanted to make everybody aware of it. From 3 to 4, EdWeb and Funds for Learning are hosting a webinar that's examining the implications of the ConnectEd initiative, which in fact was part of the inspiration for this year's CEM. Part of why we have another CEM is because of the ConnectEd initiative, which, as many of you know, is leading to an overhaul of the E-rate program by the FCC, an overhaul that's now sort of known colloquially as E-rate 2.0. Funds for Learning are E-rate experts, and they will be with EdWeb talking about that. From 4:30 to 5:30, we have the first of MacArthur's Geek Outs taking place, which I'm looking forward to seeing how those play out. Each of these sessions will have a teen host and other teens. Again, teens. What can you say? They're the word of the night, along with educators and mentors who will engage in the maker activity in a collaborative environment that includes a combination of YouTube, chat, and Twitter. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that happens, how that plays out. And then the last event I wanted to call your attention to is at 7, starting just before our cafe here. National Writing Project Radio is discussing online preparations and events scheduled for National Writing Day, which, as many of you know, is October 21st, and they will have special guests Catherine Schulten of the New York Times, Millie Davis of NCTE, and local leaders of National Writing Projects around the country. So those are some of the highlights from tonight and tomorrow, and thank you for giving me the floor to tell everybody about them, Steve. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. It is so busy. I don't think you were in when we were joking about, I'm not sure we want a Connected Educator Month going all year because we would not get anything else done. Okay, so Karl, what are you thinking deeply about? What's something that you would be willing to share with us?
Well, other than growing a ponytail, which apparently I need to do in order to make the before and after pictures look better. I think I'm in an interesting place right now, personally. We're doing what I would say are some good things at my school. We actually started something called Connected Learners, which is we have all freshmen with laptops this year, either bringing their own, about 65% brought their own, and then we supply those to for kids who either can't or don't want to bring their own, and we're hoping to grow that to all 4 years. So that's exciting and keeping me very busy. And as part of that, we're working on setting up a Genius Bar type thing where students are providing support for other students and for staff, modeled somewhat on the Apple Store. And so that's all good stuff. But it feels like tinkering around the edges. You know, kind of, and I don't know who first said this, certainly Will talks about this a lot, and I know that Sylvia Martinez has, and Frank Moscasi and other folks that we're trying to do things better instead of doing better things. In fact, we have an Insurance Day next week where I'm leading a session that says we need to not do things better, but do better things. And basically my session description is I'm going to make you really mad and angry and infuriate you, and there'll probably be some yelling, so come at your own risk. So we'll see if anybody shows up. This is in my own building, by the way. But on the other hand, I was part of a symposium a couple weeks ago where there's a high school just to the south of us, Castle View High School, who is trying to get together a pilot program that they're going to start next year with about 150 freshmen if they have that much interest, with a calling Modern Learners. And they brought in some folks like Gary Steger and Yang Zhao and some other folks, as well as some local folks, including me and some folks in the University of Colorado Denver, where they really are talking about doing things differently. Their idea is to start off with kind of a menu of projects and ideas that kids can choose from as freshmen, figuring that they need kind of a gradual release model, but that as they move on to as sophomores and juniors and seniors, that really the kids are going to be designing it around their interests. And it excites me because it's the first, at least in this neck of the woods, public school I've seen try to do that. And so I'm really happy and excited, but at the same time depressed because my school is not anywhere close to that. And again, I'm not trying to knock my school. It's a really good school. But the contrast is striking, and it makes me worry. Can you transition a fairly traditional school that's doing very well to what a lot of us think kids need today? And you know, I don't want to leave my school whatsoever, but part of me feels like I've done all I can do there. And so while I'm passionate about what we're doing and the tinkering that we're doing, it still feels very much like tinkering. And I really, part of me would really like to be at this other place, helping them do that. And it'll be interesting to see if they pull it off.
Lee or Will, do either of you have a question for Karl?
Well, Karl, I had a couple of conversations with that superintendent, actually, but as far as I can remember, he's talking really about getting rid of a lot of the structures as well of the traditional school day. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're not going with any set schedule. They're thinking about not having any real disciplines, you know, in terms of subject areas, and that it's pretty much going to be grounded in inquiry and student passion, student interest, with teachers serving as coaches, facilitators, advisors, that type of thing. Is that pretty accurate or not?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. And again, it's still very much in flux as they're trying to build this out and figure out all the details of what that might look like. They've got a core group of teachers that are leading it. Part of that symposium was not only those outside folks, but the group of teachers. There were students present, there were parents present, all talking about this. And you know, just to give you an idea, some of the projects they kind of demoed for us as things they're thinking about. One is having kids create a nonprofit based around some need they see, whether it be in the community or statewide or worldwide, and do all the things associated with that. Another was called Cityscape, where basically they design a city and go through all the process of that. A third was basically the food cycle, so kind of like the water cycle, except talking about food from growing it and the science and chemistry and all that stuff of that, as well as the agricultural piece and the business piece and the transportation piece and the whole thing, as a way to introduce kids to this idea, and then as quickly as possible get them to the point where they really are developing their own ideas and not completely self-organizing. Certainly there are still adults very much involved. And there's a lot of discussion in the symposium about, well, do you need to start with those that menu of projects or not? And the general consensus was that after 8 to 9 years of schooling the way they've had it, that it'd be really tough just to turn them loose and say, okay, let's do stuff. And so they felt like they need a little bit of structure. But yes, no bell schedules. a really strong advisory program where they have a 4-year relationship with an adult or two. They're still working out how they want to do that. And lots and lots of questions about, well, how does that translate to transcripts for colleges, and what about NCAA eligibility, and what about attendance and school funding, and yada yada yada. So there's a lot of details there, and usually those are the details that have stopped people from even trying. So I think it's really impressive that this principal and group of teachers are going for it.
Okay, well, it's your turn. You've been pretty honest about the things that you're thinking about, but is there something else that you'd like to talk about, or would you like to drill down further on anything?
Well, I actually was up at Bard College last week, and for some reason they wanted me to come up and speak. I was totally out of my element. This was basically a lot of really, really smart people that were talking about what the role of schools is in a democracy, and whether or not that role has still value and some importance. I think the general consensus is yes, but there were some presentations up there, people saying basically we should privatize all schools, that originally there were no such things as public schools, and that public schools have never been very good in the United States, very good, quote unquote, as compared to our European counterparts, because we were trying to do something in public schools in this country that had never been attempted before, ever. Leon Botstein, who is the president of BARD, just really got into my head, and he's been there for the last 3 or 4 days, and it's just been this kind of really thinking about what is the role of schools? And I know that I've been kind of asking that question forever, but B, specifically, what is the democratic role of schools? And it's an interesting question. He and a couple other people were really pushing back against privatization. In fact, I think his quote was that privatization of schools is just a fundamental blow at democracy. The idea that, if we don't believe in the public good, if we don't believe in the idea that public schools can help sustain the society that we have, can help prepare people to participate in the society, then we've really lost our way. And there are lots of people in this country right now who don't believe in the value of public schools. He made the quote, he's never met a hedge fund manager that doesn't want privatization. Anyway, just a lot of thinking and a lot of really serious conversation about what the role of schools is right now, and absent technology. And I guess that's the other thing that I just wanted to say. I'm kind of, and I can't tell you again, and I say this a lot, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate the work with Lee and Karl and millions of other people doing schools. I haven't been in a school for 7 years, and I've had certainly the good fortune of going and talking to a lot of people and hearing about the day-to-day work that they're doing and the barriers and the successes, and it's a real mixed bag right now. But I've just been in a phase of really thinking hard about, it's kind of ironic, and since it's Connected Educators Month, but how connected, what is good connection? Where's the real bar in terms of the expectation that we have of people who are making decisions about schools to understand connection? And the question I've been asking a lot is, how can we make decisions about what happens in schools, whether that's about scheduling or whether it's about curriculum or technology or anything else? I'm thinking of LAUSD right now pulling back all their iPads and just coming to the conclusion that they just don't have enough of a context, and the people who are making those decisions don't have enough of a personal practice around the uses of technologies to connect in the way that we're talking about. So all those things are kind of just on my mind lately, and I'm really struggling with a lot of those questions. There are no easy answers to any of those questions, none of them. Yet we're going to have to find our way through that, and we're going to have to find our way to a place where schools I think are going to look and act pretty differently, which is why I was interested that Karl brought up that school. I think that that's a very bold vision and a bold way of thinking about it. Totally understand that it's difficult for other schools to get there. In fact, I was shocked when I heard that vision because it is so much out there. But anyway, that's a mishmash, just what's in my head right now. Certainly not as uplifting as talking about teenagers, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking about these days.
So, Will, I'm interested because a lot of the books I'm buying lately are from the 1970s. So there are a lot of people who've been thinking about this for a long time. This is not new. It goes back to Socrates and Plato, right? I mean, these are age-old questions of the role of schools. But we've had democratic schools, we have alternative schools, and we've had the homeschool movement. Are you finding any of those groups? Are you reaching out to them and finding people whose voices you're sort of discovering have been grappling with this prior to our kind of coming to it? And if so, who are they, and how do we bring them into the bigger conversation?
So the honest answer is I haven't, and I have a lot to learn. I mean, if there's one thing that the last 13 years have taught me is how bereft my experience and background was in terms of fully understanding not only the American education movement and schooling, but learning theory and different ways of educating. And it's been this constant ramp up for me. And that's one area that, I really haven't gone into. But I think, having said that, I still think that there is a real newness in, as Karl was saying, doing things better or having better ideas. I say it's doing things better or doing things differently. And I think that I still believe that there's this important new context to learning that is new, that people in the 70s, 80s, aside from, a few people like Papert and some others, who had a personal context for computing and who could see kind of the vision of connected, the fact that he wrote The Connected Family, 25, 30 years ago. But for most people, I still think that they are kind of looking at schools and schooling through the lens of those educators and those people who are maybe writing those books, without this sense of how what we're doing right now changes things, and how what we're doing right now is a huge part of what should be happening in classrooms, or at least what we should be preparing kids to do. So, short answer is no. I still have tons to learn.
So I got to bring you down to Black Mountain, and we'll read John Holt together, and let's read Seymour Papert, and let's read Illich, and let's read McLuhan, and let's read who else? But I mean, I'm so interested that there is this newness of the connected. But I think the connectedness is bringing us around to pedagogical thinking that sort of richly exists in these pockets, and part of the fun is seeing those pockets overlap. Yeah, we are doing an unconference this month called Reinvent Ed, and Sugata Mitra's coming. If anyone wants to come, it's reinvented.org. Okay, so the last 10 minutes of this are really fun. Those of you who are here, including our esteemed guests, put your Twitter handle in the chat or your blog address, and then one thing you really care about. So like Mark puts in at Mark Sylvester, and then Mark, add to that something that you're really interested in. And Lee and Karl and Will, look for one that interests you, and we'll call on them and have them take the mic and tell us about what they're doing. Wait, raw food blogger. I can't wait. I think there's this huge connection between the films we're seeing get made about food, the food industry, the degrees to which the food industry operates on a set of principles that are not necessarily healthy for students or kids or for adults, and kind of the changes that, the grassroots changes that are taking place, especially with plant-based diets and raw food. I think there's a total connection there. If somebody doesn't call on Mark, I will at the end. We're not getting enough responses to have a good choice here. So Mark, let's have you take the mic again. Tell us about Raw Food Blog. I'm going to give you the microphone privilege. Hang on. Okay, go ahead and click on the talk button.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Can you hear me there?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. You got me? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Peggy. Yeah, I started raw food about 3 years ago. I got drug into a restaurant in New York City and was completely blown away. I had complete misperception on what live food diet was all about. And kale shakes, no kale juice. I do green juice every morning, and I'm what you call raw till dinner. So I love to, Lee, come on, kale's awesome the way I make it. My kid, go look on my on that blog and look. You'll find some pretty amazing things. You get you feel so energetic, and that's really changed how I'm able to do as much work as I'm doing, and especially during this month of Connected Educators, where I'm doing like 4 things at once, managing a couple Twitter chats and looking at Ed Connector and all of that. I'm really glad that I'm not weighed down with a bunch of heavy foods. So yeah, raw food's pretty fun as long as it's in moderation. So I'm not crazy, you know, evangelist for it. It's just, I think it's a healthy, clean way to eat.
Okay, I'm going to try and make a connection here. And I'm going to ask Lee and Karl and Will to respond. Okay, so the food industry doesn't necessarily have an incentive for us to be healthy. They have an incentive to make products that we would buy. And oftentimes those are things that are not healthy for us. And there's a sort of a revolving door between the food industry and government policy, which is sort of troubling. There's a sort of a burgeoning low-cost, low investment industry in food movies, which seem to have, because of the low cost of producing documentaries now, we seem to be seeing a change in food, and we're seeing more documentaries come out about education. If that's a connection, right, then my question is, when I go into a city, I expect to find a variety of places serving food prepared in a variety of different ways where I can make a choice. Is that a model we could ever get to in education? Not just like a buffet, Peggy, but the idea that you have a variety of different people running different restaurants, doing food in different ways, and I develop my own sense of interest in what kind of food I want to eat and the kind of ways I like it prepared, so I have a choice between the restaurants.
I think, can I jump in on that?
Please.
Okay. I think we can get to that point. I hope I live long enough to see it, but I do think it's going to take some major change, some major event that's going to push us over the edge that will allow it to finally happen. But I am seeing some things move us towards that. For example, in Florida, there's this new mandate that all students before they graduate high school will have to take at least one class online. And I'm not sure if it's specific to like Florida Virtual School or maybe Palm Beach Virtual School. Don't quote me on that. But I do know that students now have to have 3 choices, and that means 3 different curriculums. So any student who wants to take an online class has to have 3 different curriculums to choose from. And I know that they are very different. So, you know, it's a small victory, but it's something, right? I think that, like the food industry, they're interested in what's quick and easy and it's going to satisfy, right? People want to just go through McDonald's, go through the drive-through, and find something that's going to get them to the next whatever it is, so they don't have to think about what they're eating. I know Will is probably thinking, oh God, a drive-through hamburger is awful. Agreed. But I think the education business is a lot like that. We're purchasing programs, we're purchasing textbooks, we're being sold on curriculum that is going to be like a one-size-fits-all, and it will do everything that we need students to have and know by the end of, say, a year, and we're being sold a bill of goods. So that needs to stop as well. Just like the food industry needs to get overhauled and revamped, so does the education system, where we're based on what we're purchasing and what we're looking at as far as curriculum. People need to stop and say, this needs to go through a better vetting procedure, and people need to slow down and take a look at what we're doing, and let's create a lot of options.
Karl, your mic is on. Did you want to respond? I'm not hearing.
Hey, Karl, turn your mic on.
I see Karl's mic on, but I'm not hearing him. Try again, Karl. Something's happened to Karl's audio. Karl, we're not hearing you for some reason. Is your volume turned down, or are you on mute by any chance? I'm not hearing. Will, you're still there, right?
I am. I can't hear him either. Sorry.
Karl, does your headset have a mute or something that might have gotten bumped there?
Let me try one more time. Can we hear you now?
There you are.
All right.
Yeah.
So I went through the audio setup again. Not sure what happened there. I was going to say, I think that Colorado in some ways approaches what you're talking about. We're a very choice-friendly state in the sense that you can go to any public school in any district that you want as long as there's room. So there's lots of movement that way. We have a strong charter school movement, and of course we have private and parochial schools as well. But I'd go back to something that Peggy said in the chat, that I think a lot of it depends on the resources you have in order to either get to those schools or know about those schools or provide the transportation to those schools. And then something Lee said as well, which is that a lot of parents don't feel like they know enough information to make a good choice. So they really want nice standard public schools so that they don't have to think about it. Because it's hard and you don't want to mess up for your kids, and so it's a comforting thought to think that there's a standard fast foodish type school system that you can send kids to that looks very, very similar to what you went to, because it's a comfort level, and I don't know how we get past that in a public setting. When Will was talking earlier about folks who want to privatize everything, I think that that is certainly one way to provide a lot of those choices, but I think most of us would agree that it's not going to be very equitable, and perhaps is not so great for our democracy.
Okay, boy, you guys went deep. That was really fun. The hour flew by. Thanks for being a part of this. Thanks, everybody. I hope you're having a fun month. Please come back. We've got lots more each night. You know you can't be here every night, but I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Karl. Thanks, Will. Really fun to talk to each of you. Take care, everybody.